All right, welcome to another episode of the Big Blue Report featuring that guy, the two-time Super Bowl champion, former defensive captain, Giants legend, and the owner of the food truck known as Food Expressions. That's right, that guy right there, Jonathan Casillas. The professor, Ryan Darlington, joins us as always, and I am Randy Zellea from Back Sports Page. We welcome to you another episode of the Big Blue Report. We've been on hiatus for a little bit. Training camp is here. The season is right around the corner. And guys, before we talk Giants, this episode of the Big Blue Report is brought to you by NFLshop.com, powered by Fanatics. Show your love for the Giants and support us by clicking in the link in the show description and placing your order today. Whether you need gear for the 2024 season or want to rep Big Blue all year round, NFLshop.com has you covered. Head to the description below, click on the link, and get your gear today. Go Giants. All right, guys, we have a lot to cover. A lot has happened.
I don't know.
Actually, there's nothing going on. We'll see you next week. All right, talk to you later. All right. Look, to say there's some newsworthy things going on before camp has even started would be an understatement. The Giants were selected for offseason Hard Knocks. We haven't really discussed it, but I've also seen on social media, and everybody else has really dissected it, but we haven't given our take on it. Let's quickly do a quick overview of what sort of happened so far. The big story coming out of Hard Knocks was Saquon Barkley and the decision to really not offer him a contract. In the first episode, I'm just going to give little bullet points here. Joe Shane said negotiating with Saquon last offseason took about 10 years off his life. And just seeing on how that whole thing transpired, JC, start with you. Was there anything from the whole Saquon drama that surprised you at all?
No, because it's been like what you just said. It's been a drama a little bit for a couple years now, and the main, star in that show is Saquon Barkley himself. And, he expressed that he felt basically disrespected by the Giants because, they wanted him to test the market, which that's just business. I don't think, it was a personal shot towards him. I think Joe Shane knows that he is a high quality player in the NFL, but we talk about the market value of a running back nowadays. The Eagles overpaid Saquon Barkley, but they are in a position to overpay the running back position because they're loaded and they're secure at basically every other position. Unlike the Giants, the Giants needed to solidify the quarterback position a couple years ago. They did that. And it so happens to be at the same time as your star running back. And the Giants exercised the franchise tag. And I don't think neither party wanted to go that route this year. And, Joe Shane said, hey, I think we can match these offers coming out. And I just think that the Eagles just kind of just went, look, the Eagles is playing chess, guys. Yeah. They made sure that they took the Giants' weapon, but then added this weapon to a whole cathedral of weapons that already exist over there. But we're not talking about them. We will see them throughout the year a couple of the times.
Whether we want to or not.
Right. So Saquon Barkley is not out of our hairs quite yet, guys. Yeah. But look, I'm happy for him as a man because I know him personally. He got that bag that he wanted, and I feel like he got the bag that he feel like he deserved. Yep. And the Giants just was not going to give him what he felt he deserves. So even if he would have settled with some type of deal, I don't think the Giants could have gave him what he actually wanted. The Eagles did. I don't know how they did that, but they did. Kudos to them. But, Saquon is in the past, man. And, like I said, we got him twice throughout the year, but, I'm a little over the Saquon talk right now, even though I love talking about him, but he doesn't play for the Giants anymore. So
right. And Ryan, before you give your take, I said this before and I'll say this again. You have a 27-year-old running back who's in his prime right now who should be competing for a Super Bowl. The Giants are not in that place right now to be competing for a Super Bowl. he was doing himself a disservice for staying here. I understand being with one team for your whole entire career is a very, very nice luxury to have, but the Giants were just not in the same place and had a lot more needs. Joe Shane doesn't take things personally because it's business. This was a business decision. Mara said in the Hard Knocks episode, I'm going to lose a little bit of sleep if we lose Saquon. Joe Shane and Brian Dable were not taking this as personal because they understand the business side of this. Mara's looking at the business side of it as an overall, hey, we're losing our most popular player. That's a whole nother business aspect to it. But I think that from a major big picture, the Giants had to do what was best for them and not tie up $12 million. Again, another quote from Joe Shane during Hard Knocks: I don't want our $40 million quarterback handing the ball for our $12 million money. That's a lot of money tied up into two gentlemen. Ryan,
two guys.
Yeah.
Ryan. Yeah. No, and I mean, I think what struck me about the situation, I have a number of thoughts on this, and I promise I won't go into all of them because it's only going to be about a 45-minute show. But, at the end of the day, I think the few things that I picked up here is that the contract that the Giants were willing to offer was about $1 million off from the contract that he actually took with the Eagles. If you actually game out the numbers, $12.5 million over 3 years, Shane was ready to do that with $25 million guaranteed. What Saquon ended up getting from the Eagles was what was it, $12.58 million per year, so $80,000 a year more, which is like pocket change in the NFL. And then he got $1 million more guaranteed. Right. So there are incentives that are in that contract. And of course, he has the ability to make a lot more. But at the end of when you're really talking about it, we're not too far off. But one of the things that I did notice when I was listening to it is that I tried to get a sense of the tone of Saquon's voice when he was on the phone with Joe Shane. Right. They actually have that audio up there when he's having the conversation. And look, it wasn't, man, we're close, and I know what I'm looking for. I know you talked to my agent. I know that we're close on it. I want to be a Giant, right? I want to end my career as a Giant. I want to be in that Ring of Fame. I want to do it. That wasn't the sentiment. The sentiment was, JC, to your point, you know what I want, right? You know what I'm looking for, and that's that. And so I think Saquon was just over the whole thing. The time that it took off Joe Shane's life is exactly the kind of time that it took off Saquon's life as well. Yeah. He didn't want to go through any more of that than he'd already been. I think he felt like it was time to go. And, what would have made the decision in my mind if I were in Joe Shane's shoes is that, look, we can have all the star power that you want, but if the guy doesn't want to be here, the guy doesn't want to be here. And he really shouldn't be here if he doesn't want to be here. Not signing him allowed us to do a lot of other things. Right?
Yeah.
It only gave us the opportunity to land a couple of offensive linemen. It gave us the opportunity to have a little bit more that we could put towards Brian Burns. It gave us a lot more leg room, or just wiggle room in terms of salary, because you've got lots of expenses throughout the course of the year, even after free agency's done.
And one of the things, too, that I noticed, you just said it perfectly, the money helped with the offensive line and the Brian Burns trade. JC, one of the things that really stood out to me was the fact that these two major players from the offensive line that they brought in, they sort of had to gamble and negotiate higher. They ended up overpaying a little bit more. Is there a thing within the players, a feeling within the players that coming to New York, you're going to have to overpay a little bit more because of all the outside stuff that sort of comes with it and the pressure that comes into New York?
Honestly, I never thought about that until, I started paying attention to off-season stuff as a retired guy. I never really knew about it. And when New York offered me, not to say I didn't consider anything else, but it was the biggest offer that I had on the table. And it was a chance for me to come back home,
Yeah.
So I think there's something to what you're saying about kind of overpaying guys. And I think it has a little bit to do with taxes too. Like you're going to get taxed here big time,
Sure.
And the thing is about the NFL, when you play, you get taxed in the state you play in, as well as the state you work in. You know, so if you're on an away game, you get taxed twice.
Oh boy,
So,
I never thought about
you know,
that.
so
Oh, wow.
it's a lot, man. And you know, at the end of the day, though, you know, you have an ability to make a lot of money off the field, given that you're in the New York market. You know, you're in the, you know, the money, the Empire State, you know, in New York. You know, of course, you're going to be probably living in New Jersey. There's a 98% chance you're going to be living in New Jersey, but you'll have access to, you know, the biggest city or the most powerful city in the world, in New York City. So there's opportunity there. You know, so yes, you want to deal to secure your future in the NFL, but there's so many opportunities playing in this market. You know, and you could use me as an example. You know, I'm doing all kinds of media because I'm in New York, you know, working with you and Back Sports Page. And of course, I'm working with the Giants as well. But then I do MSG, I do DraftKings, I do so many different things because I'm in the area, you know, and there's a lot of opportunity here. And look, I think the Giants did a great job in trying to secure the offensive line. The big question that we've had for the last couple of years is Evan Neal. And again, he's not, you know, participating in training camp right now because he has an ailment. And I don't know, Randy, like, you know, we all want him to do well, but it's like, you know, every year it's something, and it's like, man, could you wait to the middle of the season to give us something? It's always so early in the year that, you know, he's going through something. And look, it's you can't control injuries. Most of the time you can't control injuries, you know, but it's just something about him that is just it's a lot of negativity in terms of his physical conditioning. And then of course last year in the media, you know, the things that he said about the fans, you know, so I hope he can figure this thing out because as of right now, it's not looking good for him, man.
And funny thing too, not because of the injuries, but I feel like he's getting the attention that Eric Flowers used to get. Where every single year you start talking about him and whether he's gonna be able to handle it and do it, and how come he's not performing the way he should, just like Eric experienced here, to the point where he blew up at Jordan Renan from ESPN when they had that whole incident in the locker room back then. It was just like that goes back to the pressure of playing in New York, where it's like so you keep getting prodded because you're just waiting for that reaction. You want to see if you can get that reaction. It's just the way it is. The other two things I just want to talk about from Hard Knocks, then we'll move on to camp. The first one was the combine. The fact that they did approach the Patriots about the third pick. And they said, if you guys are looking to make a move, let us know. We were on this show before the draft talking about Drake May and how the Giants really should be going after him. It seems like Dable had a little affection towards Daniels that we didn't realize at that time. That would be the guy that he would be looking for. Again, no deal was ever made. We don't even know how close there was to any type of deal for the Giants can be made. Take us through the draft process, JC, from what you saw from Hard Knocks. Anything surprise you? Anything come out and say, raise your eyebrow up a little bit and say, okay, I didn't know that?
Not really, but interestingly enough, I was actually hanging out in New York before the draft, and I ran into Jaden Daniels' mother. And I went to introduce myself, and I told her, you know, I was like, you know, hey, like, you know, what's up? You know, he might come to New York. She said, no. I was like, what? I was like, New York's nice. She was like, I don't want to go to New York. We're not going to New York. I said, well, it's really not up to him.
That's right.
Unless he pulls Eli Manning or John Elway,
right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I thought that was interesting. But look, I think the Giants, you know, it wasn't about finding another quarterback. It was giving the quarterback that you invested in another chance to be great and to solidify his spot as a franchise quarterback for the Giants organization. You know, the Giants definitely gambled on Daniel Jones, but it wasn't. I don't think it was like a far-fetched gamble. You know, it was a calculated, you know, we talked about this on this show that they didn't do the 5-year, the 5th year deal, you know, and it was like let's see what he's all about. And look, Daniel Jones performed, at a I would say at a very high functioning level. He wasn't a great quarterback, but he was an efficient quarterback, and he won games and he won a playoff game. And the Giants haven't won a playoff game in 10 years. So, with all that being said, they needed to pay him, and now they're doubling down on Daniel Jones, and it's really up to him. And they're trying to do everything they can to give him a good defense, if not a great defense, which would definitely help a quarterback that is coming off of an injury, because we still have to allow him to knock some rust off. That's going to happen. He looks like he's good now in terms of movement, but when you don't do what you love and you do on a consistent basis for 8 months, I don't care what you do, there's going to be some rust there. And even though the Giants are in training camp, it's no live bullets. There won't be no live bullets probably the entire preseason for Daniel Jones. What do you think? They're going to hold him out probably, right? They're not going to play him during the preseason, right?
You have a better chance of Aaron Rodgers moving back to Green Bay next week than you do seeing Daniel Jones on the field during a preseason game. Yeah.
But with that being said, let's rewind to the season when he came back before he got hurt the second time. You remember that first pass he threw to Saquon Barkley? You remember that? How high that thing was? So you got to allow that to happen, and they are doing everything they can to give him the weapons. That's the reason why they went and got Neighbors. They were kind of out of the mix for the Ohio State receiver, Marvin Harrison Jr. They were kind of out of the mix with that. I think it was a soft play with McCarthy. I think it was was it McCarthy or May? Was it Drake May or McCarthy? McCarthy. The Giants prodding around with the Patriots.
Oh, yeah, no, that was for Drake May.
Drake May. I don't know if that was a real deal. I think it was like a soft, right? Like a little soft, kind of like see what's the temperature over there.
That was the. But if you're thinking of moving, if you're thinking about moving,
the Giants, I think they got their guy.
Yeah, they did.
And when I say that, I think this was like, hey, we might get this guy. We probably can get this guy. But if this guy shows up at number 6, we're getting him. I've been to practice one day, and that dude can play. He can flat out play.
Yeah, I saw that pass.
He has the LSU receivers are like amazing. And you can go way back, but we can go to the Odell days. We can go to Jarvis Landry, and of course you got Jets over there. First week 1 in Minnesota. These guys come in the league ready to go, and he's a lot bigger than all of those guys that I mentioned. Maybe a little bit closer to Jarvis, but the legs are bigger. He's explosive. I think he'll be durable. Which was a question for the other LSU receiver that the Giants had. Yes, knock on wood, that the Giants had. Once Odell started getting those injuries, he was a shell of himself. Still a great receiver, but we're talking about Odell being one of the better receivers, if not the best receiver in the league for a couple of years. Neighbors is of that caliber. He's of that breed, and that's what the Giants needed. They needed a game changer at that position, and we know that. Yes, the Giants needed to have better play at quarterback, but you have a $40 million a year quarterback already that's at least locked in for this year in 2024. We knew that when they first signed him, that he had a 2-year, then they have an out, and they're going to exercise that. And I think they did everything they can to give Daniel Jones as much firepower, as much protection up front as possibly can. They got him a durable, reliable running back and running game that's familiar with the system. So there's not going to be a drop up in terms of learning with this running back Singletary that the Giants got, and they're going to hit the ground running. It's all on Daniel Jones, and it is a make or break season for him.
Again.
Again.
Make or break. Yeah.
I mean, I guess what I was going to say is, in full agreement with what JC's talking about here, in the sense that, Joe Schoen's job, his job is to kick the tires. His job is to see what the possibilities are. Consider all options. Consider all scenarios, right? He and his team, and I was a little surprised at how many capos he's got, right? That's a pretty big crew of a lot of folks that are doing a lot of work for a lot of time, right? They're spending a lot of hours in that building pouring through details of hundreds of literally hundreds of candidates. And if you're not doing the due diligence, if you're not trying to work this, that, or the other thing, whether you know it's going to come to fruition or not, you're not doing your job. So he was one of a number of GMs that was in touch with the guy from the Patriots saying, look, if you're thinking about moving out, give me a call. Before you do anything, just give me a call. Let's see what happens. But even Mara, when he was in his office, he was like, look, I'll trust you if you want to go that route and give up the farm for a guy that you believe in. If you really, a la 20 years ago with Ernie Accorsi and Eli, right? Very similar situation. If you want to do that, it worked out last time. I'm willing to do it again, but that's going to take some years off my life, right? If you do that sort of thing. So I think the Cinderella situation, right? Or actually, as the Goldilocks situation is what I should probably say, in the sense of, they got exactly what they were hoping to get. They got a guy in Malik Neighbors who you heard it from Dable, you heard it from the wide receivers coach. I was amazed. The wide receivers coach was like, hey, if you're given your choice between Marvin Harrison, Rome Odunze, and Malik Neighbors, who is it? I don't even think Odunze was in the mix. He was like, Marvin Harrison or Malik Neighbors. He's like, Neighbors. No hesitation, right? Dude's a dog, right? He hates to lose more than he loves to win. That was the thing that I picked out from him, right? And I mean, look, you got to have that, right? You got to control it. That's what Shane was like, look, you got to kind of pull it back. You got to make sure that it's harnessed and you're using it in the right ways. But man, that kind of attitude, he's tough. He's going to be smart. He's going to be dependable, right? All of the things that you want out of a Giants player. And the fact that we were able to get him and did not mortgage our future on a quarterback, they went through the same kind of things that we've been talking about for the last couple of years. Like, what's your hit rate? When you're talking about spending so much, giving up the farm for one dude, how often does that work? How often does that hit? And it's very rare. Right. So you're talking about potentially setting everything back for quite a while if it doesn't work out, or you nab a guy that, I mean, barring anything unforeseen, you're getting a guy that is going to help your $40 million a year guy. And it's almost a no-brainer.
And what's funny too, y'all talked about doing the due diligence, right? But it's all about too, like how you see it, your perspective as well. Sure. I'm gonna use, like, y'all know I was just training some kids at the park, right? Mm-hmm. I was up at the park. I had this young kid. He was 5 years old. 5.
Oh, wow.
Like, he had 2 football games today. He's a new kid. I never trained him before. I just met him. He got the fake tattoos. You seen the fake tattoos?
Yeah.
Like the stickers, but he looked like mines. I was like, yo, he was all swagged up. The kid already played in 2 football games today, right? So I was like, yeah, I'm going to take it easy. His mom was like, nah, he's good. I was like, okay, all right.
He's a runner.
The kid, super competitive, right? I was like, hey, y'all ready? He goes, yeah. And I got another kid that I train who's going into Hudson Catholic. He's 14. And another kid, he's going to his junior year, I think, at Hoboken. So I got a mixed bag of kids, only 3 kids today. And the little one, if you would have just been paying attention to the field work, right? And you would have saw him out there with no context, you'd have been like, this kid can't catch. Because he was dropping a lot of passes, and every time he dropped the pass, he was like crying about it, like literally like crying, But what I saw was a kid that played 2 games today, right? After he cried, he got back up there and did it again. And he did it again, and he did it again. And I was like, all right, you're done. He said, no, I want to do one more. Like, that's what I saw. Yeah. So it's all about the perspective on how you see it. Somebody would have looked at him like, I don't want that crybaby playing on my team. He can't catch. Yeah. I didn't see that. Nope. I saw a kid that's eager to compete, that cares about what he was doing. That's why he was so emotional about it. And, he's 5 years old. Sure. You know what I mean? Yeah. And he's a really good athlete. The kid learned to ace skip today.
Wow.
Like, in one go. And I got another kid who's 16. He still can't ace skip it. I've been teaching him for like 2 months. But like kids like that, that's a neighbor's there. That's a young neighbor's there. A kid that's going to be an ultimate competitor, hates to fail, gets emotional about it, but he's not going to quit. He's not going to give up. He's going to keep fighting. And I'm using that as an example because some people might see that as something else. But I see it as a competitor. And that's what the Giants need. Fighters. There was a time last year when against Dallas, Daniel Jones scrambled out and Parsons ran him down and he hit him out of bounds. And no old lineman went over there and did anything. And I was upset about that. I was like, yo, y'all should have whooped his ass. Yep. I don't care if it was a legal play. That was too close. It was too close. Where's the fight?
Yep.
You know, and I think that kid from LSU that we signed at the number 6 pick, I think he gonna come in fighting right away. Yep. That's what the Giants needed, and they did that. They found a fighter who's fiery, who's emotional, who is probably that same kid that I was training today at 5 years old.
And you think he's not going to elevate everybody else in that room?
Absolutely.
Oh, no. And I was sorry. Go ahead. I was about to say.
I was just going to say. I mean, that's really the point. I mean, that fire is infectious. That kind of sorry, my cat's behind here. That fire is absolutely infectious, and that attitude is infectious. And if that competitive nature that he brings is going to inspire everybody else to be that competitive, because they're all competitors too. They're there because they love the game. They're there because they want to show that they can do better, that they can be better. And it's a bunch of young guys, right? And so, I mean, come on, bringing in somebody like that that's going to fire up the whole crew when it's a young group and it's talented and it's fast. It's exciting stuff, guys.
And not only that too, but you look at that room now. You have Neighbors. You have Jalen Hyatt right there. You got 2 speedsters who can go up and get the ball. And
Slayton,
Slayton
Wan'Dale, a healthy Wan'Dale Robinson.
And then you also have Isaiah Hodgins.
Isaiah Hodgins he's our 5. Okay.
Like, there's no complaint about you whether or not you have the weapons. Now you just need the offensive line to give you that time to find your weapons, and that's what the key is going to be. Obviously,
go
ahead.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
We're diving into camp right now. We're going to get away from Hard Knocks because that's the past. They're just highlighting the past that we saw throughout the offseason. Guys, you both were at practice on Friday. I have to ask, what was the vibe from the crowd? Ryan, JC, you were with the crowd as well, but also just around the team. What's been the vibe like?
I thought it was awesome.
Yeah,
I thought it was you know, the fans were out. I spoke to, who did I speak to? I think the day before that they had a very low showing because I think it was like rain on the forecast or something like that. But man, yesterday was beautiful, wasn't it, Ryan? It was so nice.
For a better day.
It was
low
like
80s,
low 80s, like a slight overcast, so it wasn't the sun wasn't beaming on you the whole time. It was literally a great day for some training camp football. You know, I was able to see some of these guys up close. Tay Banks didn't have a great day, but the thing is with people like that, I remember Janoris Jenkins' first day going against Odell.
Jack Rabbit.
He got baptized. He got straight baptized by 13. Straight baptized. And then you saw him the next day come in like, I ain't letting that happen again. I'm not letting that happen again. I think that's Banks. I think Banks is like that. And I actually had a brief conversation with him, and he was talking about Neighbors and how like, yo, he's a dog. He said, well, shoot, I'm just trying to compete. I know he's going to make me better. And I was like, absolutely. You know why?
Yes. Because
there's another LSU receiver that you're going to face week 1 that's better than Neighbors, and that's the best in the world at that position. And you're going to be guarding him. So you better tighten up against this kid because Justin Jefferson is a different type of guy. Yeah. Oh, my gosh. Did y'all watch receiver at all?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I watched the kid last year multiple times, especially going into the first Minnesota game at the end of the season, watching some of the tape on him from weeks prior, the Buffalo stuff he was doing, the Colts catches that he was making. I'm like, there's no one better than him. And I love Devontae. I love Cheetah. I would take them all day. Justin Jefferson is the real deal. And we need people to go against him because that kid is not going to quit. He has that fire, that dog in him, and I think Banks can match that. The question is, when it comes to show up, when that ball is in the air, can you go ahead and make that play against the best in the world?
Well, I'll tell you what, if anybody's going to give him an opportunity to get better and hone his skill and stuff like that, you want him against a guy that's one of the best at the position. You want him against your number one guy. You want him working against the most talented receiver on your team. And, it sounds like that's Malik Neighbors right now. And, I mean, what I have to remember, I have to keep reminding myself that our secondary is so young. Tay Banks is exactly 1 year older than Malik Neighbors.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, it's not like there's a huge difference in longevity over there, right? In terms of experience and things like that. So listen, the more they can work each other, the more they can help each other. And that can only be good things for us.
Yeah. And then not only that too, guys, I also have to point out one very important thing. This is a really young defense. This is really young. It's a really young, exciting defense. And that's going to, carry them. My main concerns are still on the offensive side of the ball. The offensive line is the unknown. Your running back situation is, I don't want to use the word depleted because it's not a fair word to use, but it's a different look than what you've had over the last 4 years, and Singletary, Gray, it's a different cast. It's a different cast, and the focus is going to be on Daniel's arm. And I sat there listening to John Mara talk, Joe Shane talk, Brian Dable talk when everybody was introduced to the media, and John Mara and Joe Shane saying the same thing, that Daniel Jones has had every excuse to fail. He has not had the opportunity to succeed. But now you're into year 6. And now the focus is they built the team around Daniel. That's a huge thing. Now it's on his arm. And, you look on social media, there's been 2 huge throws, one to Neighbors and the other one to Jalen Hyatt. The Jalen Hyatt touchdown one where he did
I wasn't talking about that one. I thought you were talking about yesterday, that last period. The first ball was the Neighbors, right? Which was a great ball. It was a good ball, great ball. The next pass was a back shoulder throw to Jalen Hyatt. Probably the best ball I've ever seen Daniel Jones throw. It was an amazing throw on Banks again.
Yeah.
It was an amazing pass. And now if Daniel Jones, because I haven't seen him throw that really at all throughout his career, if he adds that to his regimen, oh man.
Yeah.
Man, and with these receivers that they have, the speed that they have out there, I think, the ability to beat the defense deep in Jalen Hyatt. Neighbors is the same type of way, but then the ability to go up there and attack the mesh point, like throwing that back shoulder pass, it's so difficult for a defender to guard, and Daniel Jones really didn't have that in his bag, and I feel like now he does. I think that's going to add another element to his game, especially when it comes to the aerial attack that it's kind of been non-existent.
Yep. And I'll tell you, I love the fact that they're doing 11 on 11, right? And last year it was some 7 on 7, right? Very little 11 on 11. And I think now they're really starting to amp it up as soon as they possibly can, right? Week 1, day 1, they're doing 11 on 11, and they've been doing it for the last few days. I think the other thing, I've heard some folks, especially in the media, be like, well, he's inconsistent. He's up and down, right? It's day 3, guys. It's day 3. Right. I mean, look, the guy, it's to your point, JC, he's been sitting on, he's been sitting on his ass, but he's not been playing at this high level for a while. And he's going to miss a couple of throws. You want him to miss him in camp so he doesn't miss him during the season.
Absolutely.
And I want to throw one other thing out there too. When you're recovering from an injury and you're doing the type of rehab and training that Daniel's done, he's coming into camp, the best shape he's probably been in.
Yeah.
And he's been working so hard just to rehab. He's been on the field longer, obviously, than everybody else has been all off season.
Yeah. It's funny.
So he's more ready to play because A, he's got a chip on his shoulder. B, he's got something to prove. Yeah. No, and just, like he might be in the best shape and have his best mindset right now because he knows this is the last chance. And not only that, but he's just in a better, I think he's in a better headspace because he knows it's on him. And he's welcoming the pressure. Look, Eli Manning saw something in him. Like, if you remember when Eli retired, they had the big ceremony. This is after Daniel's rookie season. Daniel was the only rookie at Eli's retirement ceremony because those two became close. Eli saw something in Daniel. This organization has seen something in Daniel. I'm very critical of Daniel just because of the inconsistencies. And look, he's been very injury prone. I think the 2022 season, when they made the playoffs, has been his only season where he played every game.
Could be.
And look what happened. And look what happened.
Yeah, right.
And look what happened.
Yep. If he stays healthy and you can give him the time, you can give him the protection, you can give him the weapons, he can do some good things. So listen, I'm unapologetically a very firm believer in the ability of Daniel Jones, right? I honestly believe, very much like Mara has said, that Shane has said, we've done everything that we possibly could to mess this kid up, right? We haven't provided him with stability that he needs. We haven't provided him with the line play that he needs. They could have had a combination of every fantastic quarterback ever put together. They could have had an all Madden quarterback back there, and he would have not had a good year last year based on the line play alone. So if you are in a position, as we are, where we've got a guy who does have the capability, he's now got the weapons, he's now got a better line, right? It's they still have some work to do in terms of gelling as a line, right? The reason we had so much success with Snee and Seibert and McKenzie and all those guys is because they played together as a cohesive unit for so long, and they were in each other's heads 9 times out of 10. If we can get the line to be that way and have them gel relatively quickly, I think it could be a very successful year for him. And if he's able to prove it again, then he will have earned an ability to be here again next year.
And the one guy in my head I also want to keep an eye on during camp and the first part of the season is I really want to keep an eye on Andrew Thomas and see how he, coming off the season that he had, which was a very disappointing one for him last year after signing that big deal. I'm very interested to see how he plays and how he leads this group, because he's the statesman, the long man statesman of that offensive line right now, as far as this organization is concerned. He's been there the longest. So it's going to be very interesting to see how he leads this group. JC, it's trivia time.
I'm nervous now. You kind of got me nervous with what you said earlier.
Awesome. Well, listen, gentlemen, if it is trivia time, then I guess I better tell you that this week's trivia is brought to you by the NFLshop.com. It is powered by the Fanatics. Show your love for Giants and support us by clicking the link in the show description and place your order today. Whether you need gear for the 2024 season or just want to rep Big Blue all year round, NFLshop.com has you covered. Head to the description below, click on the link, get all your Giants gear now. Go Big Blue. Let's hear that trivia question.
All right. So we're going to go back in the time machine, JC. We're going back to 2018.
Oh.
And this is one of your
Benny with the good hair.
This is the year after our Jag.
Yes.
Yes, let's go.
This is one of your teammates. You ready? One of your teammates from when you were there.
Here we go.
Ready? 3, 2, 1. Boom. There's the trivia question.
Oh.
I'll give you. Are you ready for the number choices?
Yes.
I'm going to bet it's not 2.5.
Okay. Is it A, 7, B, 8.5, C, 6, or D, 9.5? And that's your buddy, JC. That's your buddy right there.
He's looking down because he's actually figured out how to telepathically tell his phone to text Olivia Vernon. And he's writing in the answer to the trivia question right now.
That or he's praying and or he went to church and just didn't tell us. And it's one of those situations. But yes,
I think I got my answer.
I think I got mine too.
Okay, we'll start with Ryan. Ryan, where do you go?
I seem to recall there's a number that's sticking out in my head, and I seem to recall 8.5. I seem to recall 8.5 being the number of sacks that he had that Pro Bowl year.
All right,
that's
JC?
the number. That's the number that I was thinking too. Yeah, 8.5. Which is for Pro Bowl That's pretty low.
It's pretty low
But
for a Pro Bowl, but he had other.
Is a different type of cat, Olivier Vernon.
Well, gentlemen, you are both 100% correct. It was 8.5. Way to go, boys. You guys both nailed it. Yes.
I ain't gonna lie to you. I was thinking 10 or 11, and then you started saying the numbers and you said 8.5. I was like, that's it.
Yeah.
I was like, that's it. Because I remember seeing it when you said it. But if you would have never said it, I would have never guessed it. I would have never guessed 8.5.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I saw that trivia question. I was like, JC played with him, so I know he's following it. And
so listen, when I was younger, and I told my daughter about this too. Like, you know how you take tests with multiple choice? Like, some people they'll read the question and be like, man, I don't know the answer to this, and they'll just give up and guess. It's like, you may not know the answer, but you can find out what's not the answer.
That's right.
You might know what's not the answer. You know what I'm saying? So, like, for me, it was like, all right, you're giving us multiple choice. I got a chance here. That's
right.
And as soon as I said the number 6, you're like, hell no, it ain't 6.
No, it ain't 6. When you say 8.5, I was like, yeah, that sounds about right. I was like, that sounds about right. Yeah.
Yep.
And by the way, I do want to talk about a guy who is tremendously underrated for the Giants. It was Olivier Vernon, and he was a great signing back in 2016 for the team, and you got to spend quite a few years with him, and it also just an overall really nice guy too. You couldn't ask for it, but sure. Every time
quiet, don't say nothing. But boy, that dude, he used to be yoking them dudes up, man. Like, the combination of him and JPP, at that, outside linebacker, but it was basically defensive end and Spags defense. Man, they were great, man. Playing with those dudes with Snacks and Hankins. Yeah. Oh man, bro, like
so good.
Oh, like I'm sitting there thinking like the gaps that I used to run through with those dudes, bro. Oh my gosh, bro. We all played for each other, and Spags defense, it took us a little while, to kind of catch on. But if you pay attention to Spags's history, even when you go back to the Giants, he wasn't good early in any of the seasons. I think one of the years maybe it was 11 or 12, the year the Giants did really good and then lost, I think, in the playoffs. It wasn't the Super Bowl year. I think it was the year before. I don't know, one of those years. No, it was the year before that because Spags wasn't there then. I don't think so. Whatever. But the Spags defense always starts slow, like whether it's for a year or whether it's for like a first half of the season. That's why last year with the Chiefs, I was like, oh, they done figured this defense out early.
Started quick.
And it allowed their offense to catch up because, the Chiefs last year offensively, they weren't good at all until it got to the playoffs. Yep. And then they looked like the Chiefs that we know the Chiefs to be.
That switch. Yep.
But a defense. And the reason why I'm saying all of this, boys, is to talk about the defense that the Giants have now. Because the Giants the defense that the Giants have now will allow the offense, I think, to not be able to get by for, I think, a few weeks without being a well-oiled machine. Because I think our defense with Shane Bowen is going to rip people apart. I think Burns and Tibbs, the competition when you have two alphas on the opposite side of each other, literally competing to get to the quarterback, bro. That's what OV and JBP was. You had two, like, maybe not elite pass rushers, but really, really good pass rushers competing, and they made each other better. That's what I'm seeing out of this defense. I'm seeing a Dexter Lawrence and Snacks Harrison. I'm seeing, well, we didn't really have a linebacker like Bobby. I'm not going to compare myself to Bobby because Bobby's awesome. But you got a good, middle linebacker. Micah McFadden's good. You got, a do-everything safety, corner, linebacker player in Isaiah Simmons. You got two ball-hawking safeties that are really good around the ball, Pinnock and Belton. You got a gamer at the cornerback position. I think Flott's technique is very underrated in what he's doing. I think he's a little small, but he competes. And now the question is about the other pieces involved that are playing. Who's going to be the nickel? Is it going to be McLeod? Like, who's going to be the guy to step in when you take Michael off the field, right?
Yep.
Who's going to be that guy that comes in? So those are I think, the question marks that the Giants have on defense. But when you have that middle secure with that linebacker and that D tackle, I'm so excited to see what the defense does this year for them. I'm so excited about that.
The one thing that does scare me a little bit is how good the defense can be. The other side, I'm sorry for saying this, but the other side of the offense, we just can't have that run that finished 2016 going into 17 and having a long string of games not being able to score over 20 points. Giants.
Yeah, no, they can't happen.
So, but here's the thing. I mean, there's a flip side to that coin, right? I mean, JC, you're coming at it from a defensive perspective, saying that the defense is so good that they're going to allow the offense a couple of weeks, a little bit of a grace period to get up and running, to heat that engine up and actually get it humming. I'm wondering if, I mean, our success as an organization, the success of our defense, let's put it that way. The success of our defense is almost predicated upon the offense's ability to score points, because the only time, or the time when those guys are going to be most effective, Kayvon Thibodeau and Burns, and I mean, I guess Dexter Lawrence is going to be effective no matter what the situation is. But yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, when they're going to be most successful is when they are after the quarterback, and when they have the time to get to the quarterback is when they're in the shotgun, when they're throwing the ball, right? I don't know that this defense is built to stop the run, quite frankly. And so what we have to, our offense has to score points so that we can put opposing offenses in a position where they have to throw the ball, right? Because that's when our defense is going to be most effective. So it's kind of it's an interesting chicken or the egg, right? What has to happen first? Can the defense come up and really start, pounding away on opposing offenses to make them throw the ball, right? Yeah. Because then they're going to be behind, right? Or is it going to be the offense that's going to open it up for the defense? It's going to be a very interesting thing to see.
The Giants, what the Giants haven't done, they did it in 2022, but basically it was, you got 2016, you got 2022. Those are the 2 years that the Giants actually played complementary football.
Yep.
Like everything else, it was either the defense was bad, the offense was bad, like it was vice versa, one or the other, right? Mm-hmm. Last year, it was just everything was bad last year.
Everything stunk.
Special teams, it was bad, but this year, and this is me being the captain, right? The defensive captain. I'm looking at him, I don't care what the offense do.
What the offense does, yeah.
I don't care what they do. If they don't score 14 points, they're not gonna win.
That's
right.
Like, and that's, I think, a mentality that the Giants have established. That's what the culture is. That's when I got here. That's what it was. This is on us. We got to do better. And I told Nacho last year, I said, bro, y'all turn the ball over a lot. I said, but it really has no impact on the defense unless you allow it to. But you can also allow it to fire you up. So instead of being like, oh man, because in 2016, when we were pretty good offensively, we struggled, and Eli turned the ball over a lot. And instead of being like, oh, Eli just fumbled the ball or he threw another pick, I would put my helmet on, like, look at my boys, like, let's fucking take this field. And we used to run out there with our, like, it's us. We got to get it back. Let's go. Let's get the ball back. Like, having that mentality, and I just feel like the way they built this defensive roster, you got a whole bunch of guys that kind of embody that. And Ryan, I hope what you're saying is completely wrong. I really do.
Yeah.
I really do. You know why? Because I'm not sold on the offense having a fast start this season.
Yeah.
I think it has to, allow time. I want the offense to score points. I really do. I just really don't think that's going to happen given the quarterback that is coming off of this injury.
I hear you.
And the new pieces involved. Because remember, he ain't going to the same exact place that he was last year with the same exact people. There's new people on offensive line. You got a new primary weapon. You got a new guy you're handing the ball to. You don't have that number one guy at the tight end position anymore. So I think there has to be some type of growing pains with that type of, recipe. You know what I mean?
Yeah. We better be ready for some ball control football then.
Yes.
Right? I mean, That's really what it's going to boil down to. If that's
And situational football, which we failed at, I think, more times than not last year. Being good in situations. 2022, I think the Giants did a really good job in situational football. I think they took a big step back last year.
Yeah.
Now, you got to think, right? 2 years ago, the Giants offense was not great in 2022, but it was efficient.
Yep.
They ran the ball very effectively.
Yep.
They were really good in the red zone, and they were good on third down. And if the Giants can be situationally decent, and not turn the ball over, maybe the scores aren't that high. Maybe it's like 10 to 12, 15, like really low scoring games.
Yep.
Defensive, not pretty, but I think games like that, Giants have to figure out how to win those type of tough, low scoring defensive games. Yeah, man.
Mm-hmm. And the funny thing too, with that being said, the way this team looks offensively, it has the same model as Joe Shane and Brian Dable's Buffalo teams. The focus is not really as much on the running game, having the big name runner, but Josh Allen was the focal point, and he had receivers to throw the ball to. And that's how this team is looking like it's going to be built. And listen, I hope Daniel Jones can go out there and throw for 35 touchdowns or maybe 10 interceptions. Keep those numbers down, the interception numbers down, and this team is successful, and they'll surprise us and win 10 to 11 games. Honestly, I'd love to see that. Now, do I think that's going to happen? It's highly unlikely, but we'll definitely want to see progress. A good rebuild of any sports franchise is 3 to 5 years. That's how long it really, really takes. JC, I use this as an example all the time when we talk about a new regime coming in. When the Jets made 2 AFC championship games, Rex Ryan did that with Mangini's teams.
Right.
And when he started bringing in his guys, the guys that he wanted in there, and Mangini's guys were getting weeded out, you saw what the team started looking like, and they didn't make the playoffs. They weren't making it anymore under Ryan because he had Mangini's guys playing, and they made 2 AFC championship games. It takes a while to really rebuild a team when you're flushing a different regime's players out. So now the Giants are like, you can't. I use this as we were talking about basketball. I would use this today when I was training because we were talking about the Nets. The Nets traded Durant and Kyrie Irving. The boat had holes in it. You can't just keep plugging the holes on the boat. Eventually, you got to take the boat out of the water and rebuild the boat and put it back in the ocean. That's what the Giants have to do, and that's what the Giants are doing right now. Saquon and Daniel Jones were not Joe Shane's guys. He's trying to make the best of the situation. Daniel, I hope Daniel's successful this year. I really, really do. I'm not willing to bet $50 million on it, but I'm willing.
The Giants did.
Yeah, hell yeah, they did. And quite frankly, they now need to put themselves in a position where they can set up that $40 million man for some success, because they have to almost force a return on their investment. Right? They want to get something out of this situation, right? They made the right decision. I'm with you 100%. They made the right decision for the time that they made the decision. At the time they made the decision, it was the right call. It was the right thing to do, right? And so now they're in a position where it is incumbent upon them to provide as much as they possibly can to Daniel to support him and make sure that he's successful.
We lost JC for a minute. Ryan, I agree. I agree with you 110%. This, like I said, we've been saying it. It's now or never.
Yeah. This isn't the first time it's been that situation, right? It's not the. That's all good. It's good to have you back. It's not the first time that he's been in this situation, right? The last time that he was in this situation, it was a now or never, is when we were trying to sign him to a contract, and he did 2022. So at the end of the day, the last time he was in this position, he succeeded. And so now that his back is against the wall again, he knows his back is against the wall. He knows that there's an out in his contract, right? He's going to play his balls off, and we have to help him, right? That's the whole mantra of the organization. If we want to really make good on the money that we've provided, on the investment that we've made in terms of time, in terms of money, in terms of everything that we've put into it, we need to do everything that we can to make sure that he's as successful as he can be. If we do all of those things and he's not successful, then it's not on us as an organization.
Gentlemen, I got to tell you, first off, it was really good to have you both of you back on. When partying, we're going to be doing something a little bit different here at the Big Blue Report this season. There's going to be certain times where the professor will be taking us to school and giving us a little bit of some lessons. So get your
class will be
ready.
In session.
Class will be in session. Get your syllabuses ready.
That's
Ryan's going to be
Thank you very much.
I like these. I don't know why I like these puns so much, but they're pretty good. And then, of course, I'll be doing some updates. JC will be doing some updates exclusively here on the Big Blue Report. I'll be at practice as we're recording this on Saturday. I'll be at practice tomorrow for my first one of the season. JC, I think
I might go too.
You want to come and hang out with me? I appreciate it.
I got a little girl that's gonna be there.
Nice.
She's been asking about me, so I might have to show up for her. I'm not coming to see you, Randy. I'm going to see my little princess.
If I weren't on a plane, I'd be there too. Forget it.
JC, I just got flashbacks from my childhood when you just said that. With that being said, though, we're gonna try and give you guys as much content and as many updates, not only just on Spotify and YouTube, but through social media as well. We're gonna try and keep you guys just take a different perspective this upcoming season on the Big Blue Report. For Ryan Darlington, the champ himself, the two-time Super Bowl champ, the former defensive captain, Jonathan Casillas. I'm Randy Zellea from backsportspage.com. We appreciate you sticking with us. And here we go. The 2024 NFL season is upon us here at the Big Blue Report. We'll see you next time.